Now, all my tales are based on the fundamental premise that common human laws and interests and emotions have no validity or significance in the vast cosmos at large. H.P. Lovecraft, Letter to Farnsworth Wright, 1927. For the fish, the lake in which he lives is the universe. What does the fish think when he is jerked up by the mouth through the silver limits of existence and into a new universe where the air drowns him and the light is blue madness, where huge bipeds with no gills stuff it into a suffocating box and cover it with wet weeds to die? The Man in Black, Stephen King's The Dark Tower 1, The Gunslinger. Wisdom is but the beginning of fear. Inquisitorial proverb, Warhammer 40,000. So we've had our little conversation about cosmic horror and American author H.P. Lovecraft, who pretty much popularized the genre if he didn't create it altogether. There are actually plenty of cosmic horror stories that are out there now, from published novels and collections of short stories to comic books, video games, and tabletop role-playing games. However, do note that cosmic horror isn't that common when it comes to the film genre, and even when they do come out, they don't turn out to be very popular. Anyway, I think it's time that we do discuss films in the cosmic horror genre, and I have 3 movies here that I think pretty much epitomize its concept and theme. Hi, hello, and welcome again everybody to another episode of Natural Juan. This time around, I'd like to talk to you about 3 movies in the cosmic horror genre and why I think they're noteworthy. These are The Vanishing on 7th Street, The Void, and Event Horizon. However, before all that, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications for more content like this. I'd also like to make a quick shout out to Mr. Jonathan Green, my patron in Patreon. If you would also like to support my channel and what I do here, please check out my Patreon, PayPal, and Gcash information in the description below. Alright. With all that out of the way, let's get ready to travel into the depths of the unknown in 3 cosmic horror films. Let's start with The Vanishing on 7th Street, a 2010 apocalyptic film about what would happen if a large portion of the world's population would suddenly disappear. The film was directed by Brad Anderson with a script written by Anthony Jaswinski and stars a minimal cast of John Leguizamo, Thandie Newton, and Hayden Christensen of Star Wars fame, who became known for his role as Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. As mentioned, The Vanishing on 7th Street centers on the simple premise of what would happen if a lot of people simply disappeared one day. This is somewhat similar to other concepts such as the rapture, which is believed by many belonging to the Protestant denominations, or even the sudden disintegration of half the universe's population in Avengers Endgame. However, for this film, there is none of the hopeful promise of salvation in the Bible, nor are there any superheroes that can somehow stop or reverse the disappearances of people and the despair that follows. All we really have is the character of Luke Ryder, portrayed by Hayden Christensen, who wakes up to discover that a large number of people have simply vanished off the face of the earth. He meets unexpected allies in Paul, played by John Leguizamo, the operator of a theater projector who is the first to be able to theorize what is going on around them. Rosemary, played by Thandie Newton, a young mother and nurse desperately searching for her missing baby, and James Leary, played by Jacob Lattimore, the 12-year-old son of a bartender who has been left behind when his mother vanished. Together, the survivors look for others left behind, but slowly come to realize that they may be all that's left as the vanishing is far from over and is continuing to collect victims. The four of them come to realize that the disappearances are connected to the darkness, which continuously grows stronger as time goes on. For instance, they realize that the daylight hours are getting shorter and shorter, and that any source of light they have are quickly depleted. To make matters worse, there are voices in the darkness that call upon the survivors, tempting them to vanish in turn. Paul, John Leguizamo's character, believes the darkness and disappearances are connected to the vanishing of the Roanoke colony, which we've already discussed in a previous video. However, much of what happens next is stubbornly left unexplained, with many guessing whether the sudden darkness is some sort of extra-dimensional attack, a cleverly disguised alien invasion, or possibly something religious, such as the rapture mentioned above, or the 3 days of darkness prophecy among Catholics. If you ask me though, since Hayden Christensen is in the movie, it might just be the dark side manifesting itself in the true homeworld of the human species. Well, you had to ask. Next up, we have The Void, which is a fairly low-budget film written and directed by Steven Kostanski and Aaron Gillespie. It also stars Aaron Poole, Kenneth Welsh, and Daniel Fathers, who aren't exactly top-tier international actors, but nonetheless shine out in this film about defiling the laws of nature and seeing the gory consequences thereof. Considering that this film contains a lot of twists, I'll try not to spoil anything, but I'll still do my best to give you a good idea of what it's about. So we have Sheriff Daniel Carter, who is played by Aaron Poole, who is this film's main protagonist. He is suffering from the grief left by the loss of his own daughter, and finds solace in the friendship he has with a local doctor named Richard Powell. Little does he know that a large cult has infiltrated his town and has already been plotting something abominable for a long time now. What follows is the sheriff having to face horrors beyond belief and discovering a truth too terrible to even understand, let alone combat. Much like the film Pet Sematary, which I've talked about in another video, The Void proves that sometimes dead is indeed better. Another thing I have to say about The Void is just how well the crew and cast have done despite the minuscule budget. Much like the film Monsters by Gareth Edwards, this goes to show how a relatively small budget of less than $82,000 can go a long way with creative minds on board with a lot of willing, helping hands. What is even more inspiring is that even while the film might not be as popular as other entries in other cosmic horror films, it nonetheless captures the essence of H.P. Lovecraft's works, including the feeling of helplessness in an uncaring universe and the inherent insignificance of the human race. Lastly, but certainly not least, is Event Horizon, a science fiction film directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who also directed the Resident Evil live-action film franchise, as well as the first Aliens vs. Predator film. The film stars Lawrence Fishburne, who truly shines as Captain Miller, the leader of a space rescue operation, Sam Neill as Dr. William Weir, a scientist and engineer who designed the titular spaceship, and who might actually be losing his mind in all of this, and Joely Richardson as Lieutenant Stark, who, while not the first person to notice that something is desperately wrong with the Event Horizon, is possibly the first to theorize what is possibly going on within it. The film's premise starts out simple enough. A group of astronauts aboard a spaceship called the Lewis and Clark strike out to rescue a stranded spaceship near the outer boundaries of the solar system. The rescue astronauts then receive a cryptic message from the Event Horizon, which they first assume to be a call for help. This only serves to galvanize them into completing their mission sooner, seeking out the lost ship and hopefully saving anyone left on board. That said, upon finally discovering the ship and entering its confines, the protagonists discover that nothing is at its seams and that something evil has taken up shop within the hull of the Event Horizon. It is soon made apparent that while the event horizon was meant to create a black hole that would allow it to travel instantaneously to another star system, it turns out that it has gone to a place that is much worse. Worse than anything the human mind can ever hope to comprehend. And the event horizon has returned with something from this truly awful place. The event horizon was a flop when it first came out in theaters and was thought of as one of the weaker entries by director Paul W.S. Anderson at the time. However, it soon became a cult classic and is often mentioned in other films and franchises alike. Even players and fans of the tabletop game Warhammer 40,000 jokingly think of the film as a prequel for the grim dark setting of the game. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Natural Juan. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more like it, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. If you would also like to support my channel and what I do here, please check out my Patreon, PayPal, and Gcash information in the description below. Lastly, I'd like to tell you all that I'm kind of in a bind right now. I don't do this very often, but this is a very special case. My cousin with autism has been getting more and more episodes of seizures, which I think is very serious. To make matters worse, my aunt, who's been helping me for a good couple of years now, has an infected wound on her foot. At the moment, I am at a loss for what to do. Now, I do have options, and there are things that I can still do. However, if any of you out there are willing to help in any way, even if it's just advice and moral support, it would be greatly appreciated. Natural Juan, out.